Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Two Asian Blokes Podcast, the podcast where we talk about Asian pop culture, films, TV shows, anime, music, comic books, video games, food, whatever we're feeling at the time, really. My name is Dan with a H, and with me, as always, is my co-host Tavi. Hello, Tavi.
Hi, Dan. I think we should just get straight into today's topic. I tuned in to watch the broadcast for the Oscars because today we wanted to review Drive My Car as it was nominated for Best Picture and won Best International Feature film.
Woo.
So, yeah.
I'm sure that's
really
what everybody's talking about, right? After this year's awards. Everybody is talking about it. It's on everybody's lips how Drive My Car won Best International film.
Oh, yes, most definitely. It's definitely going to be the most searched thing about the Oscars.
Now, I didn't watch the broadcast, Harvey, but you were sending me little updates during my working day. But you watched the whole thing, did you?
I did watch the whole thing. I didn't watch most of the red carpet stuff because I didn't really care about that stuff that much. Mm-hmm. But anyway, we originally were gonna do a pre-Oscars prediction episode, but we decided not to record that because you needed some recovery time. But I think this led to the discovery after watching the broadcast, it happened during the broadcast, where Chris Rock made a pretty bad joke.
Yeah, it wasn't a good joke.
It wasn't a good joke.
It's a joke referencing a 1998 film that probably wasn't that popular even at that time.
I was going to say, in which the result was Will Smith walking on stage, and at first I thought he punched Chris Rock. But he slapped him in the face.
It was a hard slap.
And when I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is kind of a stage comedic
I'm sure
routine.
that's what a lot of people were thinking, right?
But then when you see the shockwave and the look on Chris Rock's face, you just know that was not planned. and then Will Smith obviously starts chucking F-bombs at Chris Rock.
He was pretty steamed.
When F-bombs are not censored on a PG time slot, then you know. Actually, I wonder if the rebroadcast, because in Australia, because of the time difference,
you guys saw the whole thing, right?
Yeah, it starts at it started at 11 o'clock here. I think it's probably 8 o'clock in the US or 8:30. I'm probably wrong, but it's at nighttime.
Yes, Sunday night, obviously, I think it was.
But it's a live broadcast, and it's so obviously they don't have time to censor it. And it, to be honest, the broadcast was just okay. There's definitely some things that irk me about the broadcast that I'll get into.
Oh, besides the slap, okay.
After the slap, I feel like the control room or the broadcast room just went into disarray.
Well, apparently, I heard in the American broadcast it did cut to black.
After the altercation, Chris Rock was handing out the Best Documentary award. And I couldn't even remember what won because I was just like, man, this is fucking awkward. I think it was a project that Questlove was involved in. And he won. And he was about to go into this really heartfelt speech about his dad. And they just cut to black. And it was just it was so, I don't know what the fuck happened. I don't know if that was legitimately a technical error or if broadcast was we gotta fucking censor this shit, so we just panic, just fucking panic.
Everybody pull the wire. Everybody choose a wire and pull it. Just give it a tug.
And it happened again during one of the really big awards, the Best Director's award. Kevin Costner came out, he comes in and it just fades to black, I think, or cuts to black. And then I just saw an ad for Optus. I'm like, what the fuck? What's going on? And then it cuts back to Kevin Costner and he's basically delivering the end of this really elaborate speech about all the directors, and wow, Oscars,
Wow.
But what was I guess you would have seen the clip by now. I mean, who has not seen the clip? I guess the question is, what was your reaction to it? And who do you think was in the wrong?
You know, I'm not too big on the Oscars in general already, and I think just seeing that just kind of made me lose all remaining enthusiasm I had regarding this award ceremony. Like, the mood already felt like it was at a pretty low point. And then that kind of thing happens and just brings the mood down entirely. And it just didn't seem like a fun time. Even before that happened, it just didn't seem like a fun time. But, you know, I mean, props to Chris Rock for keeping it professional, I guess.
Yeah, he handled it well, especially after... Chris Rock looks like the good guy after this.
Oh, yeah. Like, regardless of what kind of joke is made, you can't do that. Like,
you gotta take that shit outside, man.
Yeah. It's just... Nah, it's 4-4. And I like Will Smith. I really like... Or maybe I liked... Will Smith past him. But you know, I think there's no question that he's in the wrong in this instance. And yeah, just everything like post that as well, like his acceptance speech for Best Actor just seemed like he was trying to justify his actions.
Yeah, I think so. Like,
nah, man.
I was surprised that he won. I felt like they paused the broadcast and like, oh, quick, change the winner to Will Smith so he doesn't beat us up.
Apparently, it's gonna slap us all, man. Write his name down.
Oh, quick, who's the winner now? Oh, it's Javier Bardem. No, scratch that.
Well, yeah, I mean, apparently, like, only 3 people knew that he was the winner at that point, like, before it was announced.
Okay, yeah.
But I do think, like, it was just a case of, like, it was too late to change it at that point. I guess they could have, like, not given it to him, maybe, but I don't know, like...
There would not have been enough time.
Yeah,
like,
it just wasn't enough time. They were just put on the back foot, I think, and still trying to recover, and like they just didn't have enough time to course correct or do anything really. And like, you know, I mean, what's done is done, I guess. Like, he's got the award now. I don't think they should take it from him, I guess. Maybe just don't invite him back. I think if they didn't invite him back, he should understand why.
I think so. No, they'll invite him back because there's going to be ratings, man. They go, oh, who's Will Smith going to punch next? It's like, oh, quick.
I mean, I guess, like you were saying, that they're probably, like, on the long term, they're probably happy about the outcome, like the Oscars committee.
It definitely made it more interesting.
But to me, it's just, what a farce, you know? Like, what a fucking joke.
Yeah. Like, to be honest, I don't really want to dwell too much on it because that's not what we're about. But I think if we're talking about the Oscars, we're not even really talking about the Oscars that much. But if we're mentioning it, like, we just cannot
talk about it. And that's the sad thing as well. Like, this is the thing that people are going to remember, you know?
Yeah. So it's because Coda won Best Movie.
Did it?
Coda won.
No, I didn't know that.
Of course, I wanted Drive My Car to win because I do think that's the better movie. But it's obviously definitely bias on my end. But in this episode, I'm going to prove to people that it should have won.
Well, it won something at least.
It did. But I think Coda was probably one of the ones that were more deserving of winning it.
You were saying it was one of the better ones. It's one of the ones that I didn't watch. One of the 2 that I didn't watch.
It's a really simple story. It's a very nice movie. Everyone's portrayed really well. Everyone does a good job in acting. There were some moments at the start of the movie that I didn't really like at first because it was a little bit tropey. And I thought, is this like, you know, going to be Glee, basically? But then after that hurdle, they go over that hurdle. It is actually quite a good movie. And it did, like, draw, like, an emotional reaction. And I think the structure is nothing really new, but I think it's the way it's told and the people that it represents is very fresh.
Sure.
So I think overall it deserves its win.
I mean, I'll definitely give it a look at some point. It does seem like a bit of a passion project for everyone involved as well. I could tell from from the acceptance speech and everything that kind of went on, it seems like a project that was close to everybody involved.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and the supporting actor was the dad in that film as well, and he gave a really good speech. Yeah, the Oscars were okay.
You like watching the Oscars generally?
I do.
Yes.
I've got mixed feelings about it now. Not because of Will Smith.
It didn't help though, right?
It didn't help. But, I was following, the broadcast that they basically pre-recorded all the, I think it was best score, best editing, best production design.
All the awards that Dune won, is that?
Yeah, basically. So they pre-recorded them. Or they were still on stage, but they just, cut to it. And there's just no anticipation to these awards because, audiences don't give a shit about the awards, and it's kind of a slap to the face for filmmakers because, I know people who are working on big projects and who are always just so tired working on these things, Sure. There's so much that goes on, and it's just kind of oh yeah, this doesn't matter, but do you know what does matter? Top 5 cheer-worthy moments and top 5 fan favorites.
That was a thing, wasn't it? Okay.
Do you know what they did, though?
What?
They didn't even award anything. It was just a Watch Mojo clip. It was just they just
really
showed
lame.
the top 5.
What?
And then, there was something misleading about they were showing top 5 fan favorites, and they said that someone was going to give the award out for it, but then it was never shown.
So, but it was framed as a number 1 is the best one. Is that right?
No, it was just top 5.
Just a
and
list
they
of 5
they
things.
didn't even say that it was 5. It was just 5. Yeah, basically 5 things. That's how they framed it. So it was a fucking farce.
I mean, that's the first time they've done something like that, right?
Yeah, because they're obviously hello fellow kids kind of thing.
Yeah,
because the 5 cheer-worthy moments was The Matrix from '99 when Keanu Reeves dodges the bullet.
Oh wait, what is the time span on this? Any film.
Fan favorite was last year, but cheer-worthy moments were just a random list of things. They had Avengers Assemble moment, they had a Justice League moment. I'm what? I was just what are you doing? The thing about the Oscars that I did is that it is a little bit snobby, It's an award.
That's kind
to
of what they're about,
film.
right?
Yeah.
It's the prestige of filmmaking.
Yeah, but just the past few years, yeah.
I'm imagining just an old film person, a Martin Scorsese type, in a really well dressed in a tuxedo, and just trying to approach these youths and go, just how do you do, fellow kids?
It is basically the Steve Buscemi 30 Rock.
Yeah.
This is just it, and it was just you're not gonna get that crowd unless you start awarding those films. I don't think the Oscars should have the best picture on what's most popular, It should be something that it is voted for by people who have worked in the industry and know what filmmaking is, basically. Because if you're going to get what's most popular, and I give Marvel shit all the time, and I give the shit. It's just going to be all Marvel movies, all DC movies.
Well, I mean,
Cinderella.
we've discussed before, whether what's it called, Spider-Man: No Way Home should have gotten a nod. I maintain it's not a good film.
Oh, it did get a nomination. It got for Best Visual Effects.
Oh yeah, I mean, but it's not a Best Picture. You know what I mean?
Even
though everybody loves it, it's not a Best Picture. But
I agree with that for sure.
I guess I don't know. The Oscars is struggling to be relevant.
Yeah, I mean, if it was up to me, I would just go one way or the other. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to be popular with the kids, then just make it another MTV Awards. But if you want to have the prestige of filmmaking, I mean, there's already festivals out there for that now. I mean, there's Sundance and Cannes that people really admire.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, it's just kind of, it's weird because like I shouldn't really care about it. Like, because it's basically an award that celebrates like basically films in America, but they've definitely opened up the scope. So it's kind of like I do but don't care. It's weird. I've got a weird relationship to the Oscars because I look forward to them, but at the end of the day, I don't always agree with them. And the broadcasts, they're just fine, you know. So the hosts were Regina Hall and Wanda Skies. So Regina Hall and Wanda Skies were actually pretty funny. Regina Hall was I really like her work from the Boondocks. And I think I've seen Wanda Skies around here and there. And yeah, she was funny. Not a big fan of Amy Schumer. She was the weakest host by like a long way. But yeah, it wasn't bad, you know. So I watched the whole thing, admittedly while leveling up in Elden Ring at the same time. But I did watch the whole thing, and for the most part, I enjoyed the broadcast. I'm not sure I enjoy the direction and where it's going. I am losing respect for it year by year.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like a dignified kind of awards ceremony, but it's slowly losing its dignity. I think this year's award ceremony in particular definitely made it drop down a lot. Even in my eyes, like I don't really care for the Oscars. I don't really care about the Oscars. But like, it just seemed like a bad time. It felt like from the little parts that I've seen, it felt like a wedding that nobody really wanted to be at. It's just a collection of people that don't really know each other that well, aren't really friends with each other, but they're forced to sit in this snooty location and just, you know, like be together watching this boring thing happen. And then Will Smith slaps Chris Rock.
There's so much ego within the celebrity part of the Oscars.
A lot of people getting on soapboxes, right?
you can definitely tell with the speeches that actors give and the speeches that the technical people give. Technical people are a bit more straightforward and to the point. Some of them gave the same kind of like, you know...
agenda pushing stuff.
Pushing that kind of message. And it gets a bit much. I want it to be about the films, you know? And this is the Oscars that's definitely not about the films anymore. Not after punching Chris Rock in the face. No one's gonna... And it's sad because, one of my favorite movies from last year was nominated and got more recognition than Licorice Pizza, which I was like, I almost forgot that Licorice Pizza was nominated. I don't think Paul Thomas Anderson even went to the ceremony.
Oh, really?
Do you think there were any Oscar snubs films last year that you think should have been nominated?
I don't know. Like I said, I didn't really watch it. Hard for me to say. I don't know. Was Monster Hunter nominated for anything?
You know, it honestly could have been. If it was popular enough, it could have snuck in a fan favorite if people liked. Do you know the movies that were nominated? There was No Way Home. I think Dune was there, which doesn't really make sense because it's already nominated. Army of the Dead and Cinderella.
This was by like fan votes, right?
No, apparently the Oscars just select a bunch of movies and then the fans can vote for it.
Okay,
So it's like I guess it has to be tailored a little bit, because if it's completely up to the public, 4chan would organize some kind of strike and like vote some really
I honestly thought Cinderella was a troll. When I heard
I thought it was a troll too, but when I read it, it was like, no, this is this was something that the Oscars put in, and then Camilo Cabello fans just went crazy.
People actually like it, I guess. I don't know. What do you think got snubbed?
Honestly, I can't really think of too many, except maybe Last Night in Soho.
Oh, okay.
I think Last Night in Soho was better than a lot of the movies that were shown there. The Oscar doesn't really like horror movies, and I think it was too like the style of Last Night in Soho is probably a little bit too cheesy, maybe.
I mean, you say they don't like horror films, but I mean, Get Out won Best Original Screenplay. Really, right?
It's not politically driven enough, which is probably why Drive My Car didn't really win. Because it's like, I honestly think that Drive My Car should have won the Best Picture.
But it's not enough of a statement.
Yeah, it's not a statement movie. And I guess we can just get straight into the real purpose of this episode. But yeah, I initially wanted to just like give some more love to this movie because I feel like it will definitely be forgotten after the broadcast.
But people should watch it. It definitely, you had mentioned this movie previously on your best of 2021 list, right?
Number 2. But sometimes I wonder because I've seen this movie 4 times now, Dan.
That's fucking 12 hours of your life, Tavi.
I wouldn't call it a waste. I've enjoyed this movie every time I've watched it. I enjoy deciphering its message, and I enjoy the performances a lot in this movie. And like this movie is just, as I might have just said, it's just such a calming presence, you know. I've watched it in numerous settings. I've watched it in the cinema. I watched it in my motel at one point, which I actually honestly enjoyed like more so. Like when I was kind of taking notes on this movie, I just had it on the TV and I was just by myself, and it's just it was quite ambient.
Right.
But yeah, this movie gets me every time. Even when I watched it in the cinema, it's quite an experience, you know, like just sitting there for 3 hours and letting the journey, like the length of the movie, carry the journey. I think is quite important because I think you feel as tired or as exhausted as the characters are in this movie when it gets to the end. But yeah, no, I really thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's all right. I watched it while I had COVID, so. But no, it's good. I can't say that I didn't enjoy it. It is long. Kind of had a bit of a slow first act as well. So I think that. But once you get to about like the halfway mark, I think the rest of the time kind of just flies. Like you said, it does kind of carry itself. Yeah, it is almost like the length of the film is part of the journey that you take as the viewer as well. So yeah, I can't really argue with your thoughts on this film.
I guess we should give a quick synopsis.
Are we going to talk spoilers? There's not really anything to spoil about this film.
Yeah, it's not like it's not a conventionally structured movie. Yeah, it's a weird one to talk about, but I guess just to briefly go over the story, it's quite simple. It's about a widowed theatre director who is trying to put on a multilingual rendition of Uncle Vanya on the stage, and the bond that he develops with his driver Misaki, who she has her own traumas that she reveals the more time they spend together. And yeah, it's interesting because her character is not really in this movie very much. And she doesn't say anything really until she doesn't even come in maybe until an hour into the movie.
Right.
But like the fact that she blends into the background, but she's there. And I think there's this kind of weird metaphor to that. Like when I first watched this movie, I loved it, but also I really struggled to understand the message of the movie and why I liked it so much. Like, what did you get from this movie when you watched it?
Well, I guess it's just a to simplify it, it's kind of just a character study, I guess. Like, I think the underlying theme of everything is regret, I would say.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So it's interesting because the original source material is a Murakami short story, right?
Yeah.
Of the same title, Drive My Car. But the original short story, from what I know of it, it's very short, and it is just focused on the actor and his driver.
I've read it.
Yeah.
It's about 30 pages or 40 pages. Yeah, and it's definitely condensed. There are characters from the novel that come onto the screen, such as Takatsuki, who's kind of like, I mean, I wouldn't call him a rival, but just someone that Kafuku, who is the theater director, kind of has somewhat of a disdain for, but kind of works with him because Takatsuki is basically sleeping with is it Otto?
Otto,
yeah, which is Kafuku's wife. So he's in it, and that storyline is in the short story, but like there's less animosity towards Takatsuki in the short story. He's actually quite fond of Takatsuki.
I didn't feel the animosity was that strong in the film either. Like
it's
a lot of
there,
it,
though.
it is
definitely there.
But it's almost like it's like, oh, this guy's such a screw up kind of vibe, but rather than like, this guy is a fucking asshole who slept with my wife. It's more like, oh, dude, get your life together, you know? But it's interesting because there are a lot of characters in this film, and a lot of them do kind of get their own individual journey. So I was wondering how much of that is conveyed in such a short, story.
Yeah, you don't see anything about the other actors in the short story. But I honestly think on this is funny because Murakami stories have been adapted a few times. There was Tony Takitani, which I don't remember who the director of was that one, but that was a direct adaptation of another Murakami short story. There was Burning, a Korean movie that was based on Murakami's Barnes Burning. And Burning is like one of my like supreme loves. Like ever since I started filmmaking, like that movie has always been up there. And it's better than the source material. And I think Drive My Car is also better than the source material as well.
Well, it would be definitely more fleshed out, right? Than the source material.
But it still feels very Murakami. If you're familiar with his writing, I think this one is the closest adaptation to like the feel and best one. Yeah,
it's good. It's kind of got that somewhat melancholy feel, but it's kind of like somewhat detached as well. Yeah. Like when Kafuku like finds out that his wife is having an affair, he kind of just gets on with it. Like he is sad, but he just continues to be married to her. He doesn't cause a fuss, and that's kind of
a very
like
Japanese Asian thing to do, right?
Sure.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, it is, and it's a very Murakami thing to write as well. I would say,
thing. Because like if you're gonna compare to like what a Western production, what their character
it
might
would
do
be fucking Nothing to Lose. You know that movie Nothing to Lose? What's his name?
Martin Lawrence and Tim Robbins.
Yes. Good film.
Yeah. No, that is a good movie. It's a classic. But yeah, this movie, I think you're not really supposed to understand everything. And I was watching it, and this movie, I think, to me, well, it does have, those themes of regret and loss, melancholy and whatnot. But I think the film is quite literally about like human emotion, instinctual human emotion, because a lot of the times you do feel something, even though you don't quite understand it. And I think that's the metaphor with a lot of the multilingual aspect of this movie, because they speak English really good English in this movie for a Japanese production. So good on the actors that spoke English in this movie. But they speak English, they speak Mandarin, Korean Sign Language, Tagalog, I think it is. There's some German in there, and because like the way that he does his theater productions, he hires actors of different nationalities and races. They're usually around the Asia-centric area, but one of the shows they have a German guy. Yeah. And I think it's all based on like them understanding the emotions when they need to, even though it's not. They don't completely know what they're saying.
They don't understand the words, but they would need to understand the emotion behind the words, right?
Yeah, and there are a lot of points in this movie where it's like you don't know if the actors that are portrayed in the film are acting their scene or if they are showing emotion. You know, you see it when Kafuku is playing the Uncle Vanya character.
Right.
Right after his wife passes away, and he's like super distressed on stage. The lines kind of match into like what he's thinking, you know, and it's very interesting. And the scene that Takatsuki auditions, he auditions with like Janice, the Taiwanese girl, and they both don't understand each other. They haven't practiced, but then there's this kind of awkward exchange of what I think Takatsuki is supposed to be quite aggressive towards Janice's character. And then she's like, get away from him. Like, what the hell are you doing? So at that point, you don't know if that's actually her. And like, you never know. Maybe she is like saying, get the fuck off me. Yeah. Or if she's reciting her lines. It's just an instinctual feeling.
Unless you are familiar with Uncle Vanya.
I'm not familiar with Uncle Vanya. I did start reading some like Anton Chekhov short stories because of this movie. Because I was
apparently
just curious.
There are a lot of parallels between what happens in Uncle Vanya and what happens to the characters in Drive My Car.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I haven't really looked into it.
Yeah, I've been wanting to like check it out because are you like familiar with plays at all? Very much.
No.
No, I wouldn't say I am either.
I mean, I know I studied Waiting for Godot, I guess, in high school.
Which they showed in this movie. Yeah. Because at first I didn't really know who like Samuel Beckett was. He's the author of Waiting for Godot. But yeah, like one of the actresses I worked with, her name's Angel, Shanghainese actress. I call her Angle because it's just funnier.
Chris Angle, yeah. Kurt Angle. Kurt
Angle.
Yep.
She invited me to a play back a few years ago. It was a Chinese production of a Samuel Beckett play. I think it's called Endgame, and it's nothing to do with the Avengers. And yeah, it was quite an experience. I've seen plays a long time ago that my friends took me to, but I think I was just too young then to really understand what a play is. And like in a nutshell, Samuel Beckett's style is very like loose or weird, absurd to say, and I don't know what's going on in a Samuel Beckett play. So yeah, I was watching it and I was thinking like, am I really going to enjoy this? And yeah, it was honestly a really good production. It was like in Drive My Car, they had the screen where you can read subtitles when the actors were talking. I just enjoyed watching the emotions that the actors went through on the stage.
Yeah, it definitely adds something when it's live, right?
You can feel the acting, and I'd never seen anything like it. And when I was watching Drive My Car, it just reminded me of that energy, you know, just that it's pure acting. You know, you might not understand what you're seeing on stage, or you might not interpret it. And I don't think you really need to understand everything that you watch. You don't have to comprehend it to enjoy it. And I think that's why I really like this movie, because you can draw something different from it each time. It even reminded me of when I was working with the actors as well back then, just kind of going through the table reading and going through it and reading it without emotion. That's kind of what you got to do. And going to practice in a random location, me trying to act and failing hard when I was doing some of the rehearsals. It was
not as easy as it looks, is it?
No. And I think like a lot of that probably touched me, like, personally.
There are a few moments where, like, the actors have a moment, right, where it all just kind of connects, and they connect with the person that they're doing the scene with. Like you mentioned, the Takatsuki and Janice's scene when they auditioned, but also there was Janice and the mute girl. I think they have a scene outdoors, and they have like something happens, like Kafuku is like, something happened, but only the actors can really understand what happened. I think that's probably a good representation of, like, how it feels when, like, you have that kind of acting moment. It kind of reminded me of, like, in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, when Leonardo DiCaprio just nails that scene. You know, it's like, you don't know why, but, like, as an audience member, like, you find it hard to understand what happened, but you know something has happened.
Definitely. Like, and I think, like, for most people that watch this movie would definitely feel it. I mentioned her in my best of episode, but I think it's Yuna, Lee Yuna, the deaf girl. No, she's not deaf. She's mute. I think she's my favorite character in this movie. There's just something about her performance in every scene that she is in kind of just steals the show. It's probably, like, the best depiction of a mute person that I've seen. I don't know anything about this actress. I think it's her first role. I don't know if she's actually mute or anything, but it's just she's so well casted in this role. The calmness that her performance gives is just, like, I can't even explain it, but it's just something. Especially in the end of the movie, she has a moment when she's performing her character's role with Kafuku, and it's like that scene always, like, gets to me. Like, man, this is really, like, serene moment. But I mean, did you have any particular standouts to this film or anything?
I think Kafuku was really good. Like,
maybe
what's his name?
Oscar snubbed, you reckon? I mean,
I think Hidetoshi Nishijima, like,
he does a really good Kafuku.
It was just effortless. I mean, he just, just something really effortless about that performance, that he was his character, I guess.
I don't think there's enough drooling or enough, like, really. It's not very clear. I think that's a lot with the performances in this movie. I think everything is very understated. That, I mean, it's obviously got recognition in the West because it has been nominated for Best Picture, but it wouldn't get that much recognition otherwise because of how understated the performances are. Because there's no drooling,
and I think that's kind of like a Japanese thing as well. Like, despite the diversity of the cast, I think there's a lot of Japanese sentiment in the film. Like, because there are a lot of strong emotions going on, like, especially from Kafuku, but they're not. Like you said, there's no drooling. It's not, like, portrayed in an exaggerated manner. It's portrayed in a very muted manner, like almost like the other side of the spectrum. You know, like he sees his wife cheating on him. What does he do? He just leaves, and he has a smoke, and he goes for a drive. You know, and then the next time he sees her, he's on Skype. He's just a normal husband. You know, like that. It's like a very understated way of reacting to that situation, but at the same time, it's quite a realistic portrayal. I think. Maybe not even for, like, just for Japanese people. I think a lot of people, when put in that kind of situation, they might react the same way.
Like, it's hard to tell. You never know. I think I'd be prone more to acting that way.
You'd be listening to Drake in the car probably.
Probably. Like, his performance is so good. And yeah, I wish there was some recognition for the acting in this movie.
Even his co-star, the driver, the actress's name?
Yeah, Toko Miura.
I think she does a really good job as well when not given that much to do. Like, the way she expresses herself through her eyes, I think is just really, like, well done.
The way she portrays her character is exactly how is written in the books. So it's weird to emote, like, to give that emotion, but not, like, actually showing it is, like, that's fucking hard to do, man. Yeah, this movie, it doesn't have especially good cinematography. It's not like, I mean, it's not bad cinematography, and I do love the look and feel of the movie, but, like, you know, let's say, Parasite cinematography is better. Dune, obviously, which won Best Cinematography. It was as competently shot as, like, the other nominated films, such as, like, maybe Coda or King Richard. None of them had especially good cinematography. It's just like, but, like, those films had, like, those very easy to digest emotions, like, you know what you need to feel. Well, actually, Coda is quite different because there are some scenes where there is conflict between the main character in that movie where she should choose her family or, like, her dreams. So that's kind of a hard thing to accept in that movie. But, like, in Drive My Car, there's not anything. There's not really any stakes. There's not really any. There's no grand evil. The goal is very simple. It's to put on a play, you know?
I think a lot of it is what's not said in the film rather than what is said. Like, to compare it to King Richard, which I have seen, and obviously Will Smith won Best Actor for it, right?
Yeah,
like,
he won. Yeah.
You can look at his performance as King Richard and you can see, like, okay, he's acting. Like, he's you know, it is quite obvious, like, what kind of emotion he's trying to portray. And, like, you can consider that good acting. Like, you should be able to know how the characters are feeling, I guess. You know, I'm not saying he's doing a bad job, but it is definitely less of a nuanced performance than anything that Drive My Car has to offer. When Drive My Car is all about nuance and subtlety and what's, like, between the lines, it is a lot harder to point at it and say that is good acting. You know, it's not as obvious.
And that's the thing. Like, I think Drive My Car is probably, like, the screenwriter's favorite movie of last year. It's definitely got a lot of recognition in, like, the more snootier circles, I guess. So it's not like this film it's definitely made waves, but it's nowhere near as exciting as Parasite.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So I knew that this movie was not going to win, but with all that aside, it's just, I think this movie is just, it's too subtle, I guess. But that's the thing that I love about the movie, and something like, if I ever wrote a movie like this, like, it's just like, yeah, man, I don't really need to do very much after, you know. I think it's such a beautiful piece of cinema.
Well, people kind of compare it to Nomadland, right? And Nomadland won last year. Would you say that's a fair comparison?
Yeah, I would too. Nomadland is pretty subtle. It's also very understated. Frances McDormand, she doesn't drool either, but she gives off a really good performance, and there's a lot of, it is quite comparable, I would say.
But Nomadland won.
Yeah, Nomadland is an American film, so it's a lot easier to connect to the audience, whereas Drive My Car is a very Japanese movie. Just the sentiments of it. It doesn't even, it doesn't need to state that it's Japanese, like, as, you know, maybe some films that are with the diversity aspect.
Yes. Did you catch his wait, who went up to accept the award?
It was the director, and this pissed me off. Like, English is not his first language. He doesn't speak English that well. I mean, the actors in the film spoke better English than the director.
Okay.
But yeah, Ryusuke walks up and he's like giving a speech, and he's giving it quite slowly. And then like, I think he said a few names, and then like his intonation seemed like he was finished. But you could tell he was trying to think, and then the Oscars started playing music to like get him off the stage, and like the dude's been on for like 15 seconds, I reckon, and then, like this is a big moment. I don't know if this guy's ever going to be back on that stage again, and it's like fucking let the man have his fucking moment, you know. And it's like, yeah, we're all about like fucking all these, you know, kind of lives matter, we're looking out, but then fuck the Asian Japanese, no one understands what you're fucking saying, get off the stage, you know. That's kind of what I felt like, and it kind of sullied the moment a little bit for me. And people won't remember it, even that moment, because Will Smith punched Chris Rock in the face. But I was a little bit upset by that, to be honest. I think it's because I love this movie a lot that it kind of sullied.
But I mean, you're right. It is a big moment for that director, especially, right? Like he should be allowed to have, you know, his to say his piece, you know, just because he's not getting on a soapbox and saying buzzwords doesn't mean, you know, what he's saying is any less meaningful. I mean, it's probably just like, you know, poor production in general. Like you said, like there's a language barrier. Maybe, you know, they just jumped the gun a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't sound like it was a very good show.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about it probably wasn't really. It's like, but there's another interesting aspect that I wanted to talk about in Drive My Car, was when Misaki is assigned as a driver to Kafuku, because the theater company won't let him drive his own car because an actor got into an accident for driving. I've had my own personal experience driving people after a long day of directing. This is going to involve Angel again, or Angle. And this is going to involve Liz. She will be listening to this. I work with her a lot. You might have recognized her from some
Magpie
of the music videos.
And Swallow, was
Magpie. And Colors in the Dark as well. You would have recognized her from there. We got a couple of projects going on. But we had basically shot like the final scene for Swallow Magpie, and I was driving Angel and Liz and my editor Anthony. I was driving them home, and we were just filming in Mornington Peninsula. So geographically, for people that aren't from Australia, that's like a 2-hour drive from where I live, and that's on top of taking people home. So let's say that's 2 hours and 45 minutes of driving. And making movies is hard, whether you're an editor or a director, cinematographer, or even just a gaffer, lighting technician, or even a production assistant. The Oscars wouldn't have you believe this with the way they treat it, but it's a hard job. So anyway, I was driving them home, and I was dead tired. I was basically falling asleep at the wheel.
Oh dear.
And there was one point we were cutting through the city, and I couldn't see these like the traffic lights properly, so I swerved onto these tram tracks, and like everyone was asleep in the car, and then everyone just jolted, and I was like, oh shit, this could be very dangerous. So I'm driving on the fucking tram tracks, and I'm trying to get off, and then Liz is like, Tavi, you're on the tram tracks, and then she starts filming me, like kind of panicking inside. But I'm like, no, it's all right. I'll get us out. And I did manage to find an opening, and then like everyone was just kind of both shocked and laughing at me, and I'm like, yeah. You need to get a driver.
This is why you're doing. Yeah, fair enough.
So when they said that, I'm like, yeah, this is a very realistic movie. You got to have a driver.
Yeah, I think the premise as well is quite good. I never really thought about like the idea of a multilingual play, the way they use it as a framing device to to kind of push this message of like understanding each other's emotions regardless of language. I think that's just a really good twist.
There's a particular scene that I've struggled to grasp. The confrontation between Takatsuki and Kafuku. You know what I'm talking about. There's this long drive. Basically, Misaki's driving Kafuku and Takatsuki after a night of drinking. And at this point, while it's never stated, I would say that Kafuku is confronting Takatsuki about, the infidelity that he had with his wife. And it's done in a way that would be hard to explain in this podcast, but it's like basically the wife would tell her story while she's having sex with Kafuku. And then she wouldn't remember, but he would write it down. But before the story concludes, she passes away. And I think Kafuku is kind of like asking or telling Takatsuki about this story and kind of inferring like, why did you sleep with my wife kind of thing. And in which Takatsuki kind of rebutes back with the conclusion of that story. But like, I'm not really sure. I think that's what's happening, but then it's like there's this kind of honest sadness to Takatsuki as well. Like he really loved Kafuku's wife. And like, I just try to break down that scene, but I'm never really sure exactly what is stated there.
I think you're on the money there. Like both Takatsuki and Kafuku loved Otto, right? And I think the idea of like her writing her story while having sex, I guess, it's kind of like
Murakami.
It's kind of weird, but
it is weird.
Like it kind of implies that both of them play a part in her story. I think, like it might be that she's in love with both of them as well. I think obviously there is some animosity on Kafuku's end because it's cheating, right? But I think Takatsuki's point of view is, if they both love her and she both loves them, then, they're not really doing anything wrong, I guess.
It's such a weird sentiment because it just goes against everything that we've been taught, like just everything about relationships and everything about how things should be,
Sure, but at the same time, I feel like it is still a very Murakami thing, very Murakami way of seeing relationships. It's like monogamy is not the be all that and ends all. Love is the main thing is, and if Otto loves them both and they both love her, then it's just a different way, I guess, to perceive a relationship. I mean, obviously, Kafuku is portrayed as more of a traditional guy, so I don't think he's that keen on that idea. But I think Otto is more like of the free spirit kind, judging from like the story that she tells as well.
I mean, that story, we won't talk about the story because that's just another fucking 2-hour long conversation. But the ending to Katsuki's arc is I thought was kind of humorous with the guy. Like, he's kind of like a disgraced actor at this point, but you don't really know why until like it's revealed a little bit later. But like, he has a thing about people taking photos of him in public, which culminates him into off-screen beating a guy to death. But like the way that guy like takes a photo, it just looked really funny. I don't know. I'm not sure it was just the framing or it's kind of like it kind of broke the flow of the movie. This guy just walking out, just going, just taking a photo and then walking off. I just thought it looked really funny.
I think it's just the innocent way that he kind of does it. Like, neat.
That's basically it. It's like, that's sick. And he just takes a photo, and now he's dead.
Yep.
What did you think about Misaki's kind of backstory because she talks about how she's such a good driver. It's basically because she's a victim of domestic violence.
Again, it's kind of, she says it, she tells Kafka her story, but it is told in such like a emotionless kind of way that like it kind of takes like the sting out of it. Like her character is very matter of fact, right?
Yeah.
So even the way she tells like this kind of traumatic experience, it is just she's stating the facts. Yeah. She's like, this is why I'm good at driving. This is what happened to me. It's very true to her character. And I think the way she tells the story on the offset, because she's pretty expressionless about it, like initially I thought it did take some of the gravitas out of what she was saying. But then like it is something that kind of sticks with you as like part of her character, you know, both what happened to her, but how she reacted to what happened to her. I think both of those kind of like are very true to her character.
The gravitas of that moment really hit me when I watched it in the theater. When I first saw it's not really a climax, but like the scene where she returns to her home with Kafuku, and then she tells a story about her mother's, I guess, split personality, how like her mother would beat her up, but then her mother would retreat into this other personality called Sachi, who is basically an 8-year-old girl. And that's basically Misaki's only friend, is this like other side of her mother that just comes out, but that isn't her mother. And it's like, I kind of took that as Misaki accepting her mother's mental issues as just part of her. And that's like the metaphor that she says to Kafuku, that his wife, maybe just his wife having affairs is kind of just part of her. Like she could still be a good person. And like when she was talking about that, like, I was getting emotional. And again, like I didn't really know why. I think it's just like, just sitting in that room and just watching these images on screen. And it's just like, And Matthew
McConaughey.
I was Matthew McConaughey a little bit. But I also want to talk about the soundtrack to this movie, because I actually listened to the score and the soundtrack quite a lot when I'm driving. Especially, I was driving home the other day from Frankston. I think I had this album on cue, and it's just like I was driving over like the Westgate Bridge. And it was dark, and then like this soundtrack came on, and like, man, like I felt like I was in the fucking movie, you know? It's just like, it was really an experience. I was like, like I feel like I just want to like drive across the bridge again and just like listen to the soundtrack, because it just like,
it's like atmospheric, eh?
It was super atmospheric. I was just like in the moment. But it's done by Eiko Ishibashi, which I don't think I've heard too much of her stuff, but it's kind of like, I guess the soundtrack is like a little bit electronic jazzy, would you say?
From what I can remember.
It's not that prominent in the movie.
Like a lot of the time he's listening to the audio of Uncle Vanya, right, in his car.
And it's like, it's just this weirdly, like, this, obviously because he's listening to his wife who has passed away. And there's this kind of like ghostly feel, this haunting feeling of it. But there's just, I don't know, there's just so many like elements and things I discover when I watch this movie. And I think this is why it should have won Best Picture. Well, coming from an extremely biased
if you're
opinion.
Going to compare it to Coda, why do you think, honest opinion, why do you think Coda won instead of Drive My Car?
It's the first movie that has deaf actors. And it's a good movie. Again, there is very relatable complications to the main character. But the message of that movie, it's very simple. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you can watch Coda a handful of times. This is my opinion. You can watch it a handful of times and you would get it, you know? Like, I feel like if I don't need to watch it again to appreciate it. There's, like, some stuff that I didn't like. It's weird because I don't really like the bullies trope in movies.
Right. You mentioned
unless
before.
It's like,
unless it's extreme bullying. Unless it's like fucking Stephen King style, carving my name into your stomach flesh bully.
Because, again, I think I said about Coda that it started off a little rocky, personally, for me. There was some aspects that I didn't really like at first. Like, it kind of felt a little bit tweenish until the story got rolling, and then you know the family and the characters a bit more. Then it's like, okay, this is a good movie. But, like, at the end of the day, while it's a step forward for, I guess, deaf
community.
That community. Deaf. They are deaf in that movie. Shit.
Yes,
I'm getting them mixed up with Yuna, who's mute. But it's definitely a step forward. But as, like, a film to rewatch and discover, there's not too much to it. Whereas in Drive My Car, there's, like, it's not something that you completely understand, and maybe I never will fully understand it. But, like, instinctually,
you feel it.
I can feel it, but I can't put my finger on it, and that's what I get out of it, you know. And it's the only one of the films out of the best pictures that is, like, has this really calming presence. Even it does have some strong themes in this movie, but it's like it's very understated. And I think it's just the most different and the most probably the most rewarding watch. I think it's just the layers that are in this movie that deserves its, like, praise, its accolades, you know.
Yeah, and I think it will get recognition. Like you said, it's making waves. Yeah, like I think, you know, it not getting Best Picture, it's not the biggest thing in the world.
No, it's not. It really isn't.
Like it did win something.
I knew it was going to win Best International, and, like,
and people will watch it.
Yeah, I just think I wish it was as I just kind of wish it had as much as a rock star life as, like, Parasite did. And I'm like really happy that Parasite got the recognition. I think Parasite deserves all that. But, like, Drive My Car is such a different kind of movie. Yeah.
I think it maybe lacked a bit of commercial appeal.
I would agree with that.
That Parasite had.
Yeah. Like, it's so hard. It was so hard to market a movie like Drive. Because I reckon I would show this movie to a bunch of people and they probably wouldn't like it.
Like, I question whether, if it wasn't set in Japan with Japanese characters, I question whether I would have enjoyed it, to be honest.
That's the thing. It can't really exist not being a Japanese movie.
Yeah.
Because it is,
probably.
It's very entrenched in its culture.
But, you know, like, if I didn't understand that side of Japanese culture, like, maybe, I think that definitely would have affected my level of enjoyment of the film. So that's probably where a lot of our audience gets lost, I reckon, is just, maybe it's too subtle for its own good, you know?
It's like, I give like Western audiences a lot of shit on this podcast, don't I? Like, look, I love American movies, man. We talk a lot about American movies on this podcast, and we grew up watching American movies. And my sister would always, like, comment on how American I sounded growing up because I was watching a lot of. But I think it's like it's funny because I just relate to these stories a bit more, like, when I see them, because I think I can definitely relate to a lot of those American films growing up, but ever since discovering this new kind of cinema, well, not new, but, like, different cinema, like, I can find, like, different aspects of myself, you know, and it's not me, you know, but I think it's just the sentiments that I enjoy a bit more, that it's like it comes from many years of watching these kind of movies, I guess. So
Sure.
like, yeah, it definitely doesn't have that commercial appeal unless you are into
And
movies.
even like probably the time you spend in Japan plays a part as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
yeah,
like
it would for sure.
so it's a lot of brooding happening during that time of your life. I think.
Yeah, for people that know that story, yeah. But like I want this kind of cinema to be like more known. I mean, that's why I started this podcast. It's because I wanted to bring to light to this kind of films. Like I would like a general audience to like understand these kind of different feelings. And this is not per se just watching Japanese and Korean movies. I guess like eventually we're talking about Taiwan and Hong Kong movies, but it's just such a rewarding thing, and it's like because it's so hard to get into this kind of movie when you're bogged down with work. You don't want to give a shit about, you don't really want to explore that kind of stuff.
And it's 3 hours long.
And it's 3 hours long.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I know. But I like watching long movies. I mean, I watched the Oscars, which is 4.5 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I got pretty gassed watching all the Oscar films that I did watch. I didn't even watch all of them, and I still got gassed. Like, long films are harder to get through, but they are also perhaps more rewarding if they're good,
Yeah, it just makes you a better person, I guess, when you explore these things. I don't know. Like,
only if they're good.
Only if they're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I think maybe that's as much as I can say to keep the podcast as not as long as Drive My Car, because I could definitely talk about this movie longer because I've got all my fucking. I mean, I always mention that I don't write notes, but I've got like a lot of notes in this movie. But I don't want to bore the people that we're listening to.
Yeah, so maybe you can make an extended episode where you just rant on and on for as long as you want to about this film. And it's a good film, so maybe it deserves that, It didn't get the award you perhaps wanted it to, but it's a good watch. I think people should definitely check it out if you haven't already. I think it's definitely, I don't know, like I haven't seen Coda, so I can't say as to whether or not it is a superior film to that, but out of the ones that I watched, it's it's definitely the strongest, I'd say. Like I've just for context, I did watch all of them except for Coda and Belfast.
Belfast is actually really good too. I really liked Belfast. I like English movies.
Yeah.
So calm down.
I mean, like I'm always more about entertainment than art when it comes to films. You know me, like I'm a simple man that enjoys simple films. So I enjoy films like Dune, and even like Nightmare Alley. I just really like the vibe of that film.
Yeah. I would say Nightmare Alley was one of the weaker ones, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But
I liked its production design.
Yeah, just the aesthetic of it is something that I really enjoy seeing, and I wish, there were more films like it, I guess. But
I do miss those kind of films, like the Shutter Islands and the
just your like noir,
sort of like
stuff,
noir, psychological
creepy,
noir. Yeah, they're not very bankable. Nightmare Alley was a flop. I'm pretty sure. All those movies were flops. To be honest, I think Drive My Car was probably the most successful. Out of all the best pictures.
It's a very niche audience that enjoys that aesthetic, I think. But like in terms of like depth, I would say probably Drive My Car is the strongest offering that I saw.
Much better than West Side Story.
West Side Story was all right. It's probably my least favorite out of the lot.
It's one of those movies that I know is good, but it's just not my tastes. It's just not for me. It's not very deep. I don't like the stop and start feel of that movie.
It's a bit jarring, especially if you're not that big on musicals as well.
Yeah. I think it's a different energy. Like, I feel like if I saw a musical on stage, I'd probably enjoy it a bit more. It's like when I watched my friends play back those many years ago. I kind of like, this is what pure acting is. Maybe I'll be like, this is what a pure musical is.
Have you seen a live musical before?
No, I don't have a spare $300 to throw away.
No, you can watch like cheap ones. I watched American Psycho, the musical at the Opera House.
Yeah, you did.
And that
That's
was that wasn't that expensive, and it was a good time.
yeah. Well, yeah, Drive My Car.
Good
10
stuff.
out of 10.
Check it out.
Go watch it. It's great.
Support it. Because they should make more films like this, and hopefully people do notice it and do pay a bit more attention to this side of Asian cinema.
The director Ryusuke Hamaguchi, I've seen some of his other films. A Star Called 1 and 2 is quite good, and Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy, which also came out last year, is pretty good too. It's like an anthology about 3 different women, and all the stories are quite distinct from each other. And I hope like those movies get discovered because they're actually pretty good movies.
You know what would probably help them get discovered is if Ryusuke Hamaguchi just went up and slapped Chris Rock.
Yeah.
That would probably help.
Yeah, it would.
What a load of shit. Okay. Shall we wrap this one up then, Tabi?
Yeah, I guess we're signing off.
Okay. But yeah, what do you guys think of the Oscars? Do you think it's on the way out? Do you think it's just trying too hard to be relevant at this point, or do you still enjoy it? Do you still look forward to the Oscars? And yeah, watch Drive My Car. If you haven't seen it already, go watch it. If you did see it, tell us what you think about it. You can get in touch with us at twoasianblokes@gmail.com. You can join our Facebook group to be part of the conversation, or you can follow us on Instagram at twoasianblokes if you want to see what we're up to. Thank you for listening as always, guys.
Yeah, don't go slapping people on the face.
It's not a good look. I don't care who you are. Just don't do it.
Don't do it.
You'll regret it. I'm sure he regrets it. He probably won't say it, but I'm sure he does on some level regret his actions. I hope he does anyway.
Yeah, we'll see where the ego goes. But no, that's us signing off, guys.
All right, cool. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
See ya.